All right. Now I'd like to call up our special guests, and they are right here. We've got Nadia Tarlow, we've got Tom Bulow, and Gary Linden, and the person who's just arrived from South Africa literally minutes ago, Chris Bertish. Come on up, guys. Yes, that was a dramatic entrance, Chris. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry if I scared anyone in the male toilet. I was like getting changed. Well, like people are coming out. So sorry. Like this is the story of my life. Like nothing's really changed.
It is unbelievable how much you travel, and this is just sort of normal for you to make these 24-hour, 48-hour, whatever trips. It's incredible.
Yeah, 40 hours and then four and a half hours to get up here from LAX. I think I flew in at 2:30 an hour in customs and straight here, and I think I've been I've been at home 8 hours in the last 9 days. So.
Whoa.
I was hoping you kept it for me. Isn't it in the back of your car?
All right. Well, I would you like to sort of start off with some little how this came to be, why you decided to make a movie about Chris Bertish, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience as well.
Sorry, I haven't had a chance to say hi to these guys yet. I've just sort of come in, so thanks, guys. Yeah, just to have these guys here is pretty special. Sorry, Maya, I haven't even said hello to anyone yet. I've just walked in, so. Just a really big thanks to Gary. He's been a massive part in helping me over the last decade, and obviously he's been a huge and instrumental part in making the Big Wave World Tour happen. So I think just a really big round of applause for Gary Linden. And then Tom, I met him quite a while ago, as you heard, as part of that story. If anyone doesn't know who Tom Bulow is, he's if you ever get in trouble and need a major ER surgeon, this is your guy. So make sure you buy him a beer later. Besides being a phenomenal surfer. And then Nadia, who's been on the journey with me making this film for the last, 4.5 years. It's been a roller coaster ride, but she's hung in there and stuck in there. So Nite, thanks very much. And Molly and the whole team from the San Luis Obispo Festival, thank you very much for having me guys here. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Sorry, we do things a little bit backwards in South Africa, so I've done everything the wrong way around. So yeah, I think we can start now. That's good. Sorry about that.
Let's hear the beginning. Yeah, how this happened.
Yeah, so Chris actually, had been compiling a lot of footage from his life. His dad started when he was very young, and so he had this vision for this movie in the back of his mind, and he actually had started to actually try to make it happen. And just a ton of material had been collecting. I heard about his story through our co-director, Sean Duell, who is from South Africa. And as I mentioned, when I witnessed the impact that Chris's mission had made on Sean and just lit him up, that's when we both knew we wanted to make sure we brought this story to everybody with the help of Chris and whoever else wanted to be a part of it. And we've discovered that the Big Wave family is incredibly loving and cooperative, and they all want to just help get these great stories out. So thanks to everyone. And yeah, I courted Chris for maybe 4 or 5 months on Skype and said, hey, I've got this team of people. We want to tell your story. We're a small indie company. And he said, look, I want to give you guys a chance, and I want to be a part of it because it's my vision. We flushed it out for a long time. I think it was 800 hours of footage that he brought us that we had to look through and then figure out what was missing. And we interviewed about 40 people. And then the film went through some phases. We ended up working with a great team in Cape Town to make the major cuts and almost reform the film that we brought to them. And that's Fixer Film, and they are incredible. And so it's been just an amazing journey through
how
so
long?
many phases.
How many years?
It's taken about 4 years. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's actually been 15 years, really.
Yeah, actually 30 years, really.
I had this vision for the film about from 2000 onwards, and I wrote a little basic script for it and all the different people that were going to be in it, and then I actually started filming everywhere where I went and setting up shots. You see that some of the shots with the car going over the camera and Easter Island and what have you, which was 13 years ago. I mean, that was a long time ago, and I was already setting up shots and I had this vision in my head of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to create, and I knew that the story was going to be powerful, but just the whole journey and the way it ended up and how long and how determined and how focused I had to be to try and make it happen and then get through to Mavericks and the day that turned out to be one of the day of days, and all the extra hoops that I had to jump through. And it wasn't like a lot of the stuff that wasn't really planned. It just sort of happened that way. Believe me, I wouldn't have put those obstacles in front of my way if I had my way, but it made the story even better. So, it was just an incredibly long road. And I think the main fundamental thing that comes across in any of the things that I've done in my life is that, nothing comes easy that you really want, and you've got to stay determined, stay focused, and persevere, and never ever give up if you believe in something. And if you have the courage and passion to follow it through, you can achieve anything in life.
I guess probably a few of you are wondering, where's Jeff Clark? Didn't you say he was going to be here? We did say, and he was going to be here until late last night when unfortunately something happened, something came up, and he was not able to join us tonight. So I know he wants to be here. He was here on the screen, and we're sorry that he's not here, but we're thrilled that you guys are. So
yeah, Jeff's been amazing. He's become like family to me. An incredible individual. Incredibly giving and sharing and caring. He actually flew down for my wedding 2 years ago in South Africa. He tries to come back all the time now because he loves it so much. But yeah, he's just an incredible guy. Anybody that can take off on a 50-foot wave at Mavericks and go go front side either which way, go switch. I still haven't met many people that can do that. He's a pretty special individual. So, he's been so supportive of myself and the film and the journey. He's been pretty incredible. So if you guys see him out and around, just give him a big furry hug from me and just say thanks, because he's been an important part of the road and the journey.
Thank you, and we'll let him know that. Let's take some questions from the audience, and because we have such a big theater, I'm just going to repeat what you ask. So go ahead. Who wants to ask a question of? Yes.
Yes.
Did everybody hear that? You have a pretty good
An
voice.
inspiration. At the time, I thought I'd seen it all. I mean, I'd spent some time out there. I'd been surfing Todos during El Nino, 97, 98. And I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've seen people coming up and being on their game, and I've seen people having problems with equipment and being frustrated. I've seen, you know, people take donuts really bad on the inside there. And I felt like I knew, you know, I had a pretty good gauge of what was possible and what wasn't possible out there, and Chris just shattered it in one afternoon. I was like, wow, this guy is on a different level. So yeah, I was instantly inspired. It wasn't just that, it was his attitude. I mean, even when he did take, you know, a wave on the head or something, he came back with a smile. He was having fun out there. And that's, you know, you go out there when it's big and things start to get serious. Gary knows this because I've been sitting next to him when this happens. And you start looking around at the looks in everybody's face, and they kind of, you can tell who still is hungry and who's like, I'm going to go back to the boat. I think I've had enough. And you're looking for inspiration from anybody you can take it from. And when I saw that, he made me want to like surf more. And those are the type of people you want to keep around you. And then there's a strong brotherhood with big wave surfing as opposed. There's brotherhood amongst surfers in general, but I think it's a little tighter in the big wave community. I think other people call it sportsmanship in other sports and stuff like that. For us, it's a different sort of bond. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Gary's also been surfing out there for, how many years, Gary? 40 years?
30 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing. And it's, you know, it's just interesting to see the progression. You know, Gary's seen, you know, a whole lot of people come up. Tom's seen a whole lot of people come up and really evolve and grow. And, you know, we continually just keep on seeing the sport just evolve, you know. And, you know, through that El Nino swell in 2000, and then the next really big one in 2010 when they had the Mavericks event. And then this year has been phenomenal, you know. And it's great to just see the next generation of surfers. You know, I met Greg Long and Rusty Long the first time that swell in 2000, and you know, they were just young kids and you know, 18 I think, and now Greg Long's just gone on to win the big wave world title in probably the biggest and best season in the history of the sport. And that just shows where the sport's going. And you know, we might have helped take the sport to a different level in the last 5 years, but the guys this year in the El Nino season we've just had have just blown the roof off it, and it just gives everybody an idea of where big wave surfing is going and what the potential is, because we thought we knew what was possible in 2010, and now there's a whole new level. And you know, I'm inspired just to see what the guys are doing now, and it's incredible to see what the potential is going forward. And I think yeah, just seeing what Greg Long's done this year has been, and a couple of other guys, Albilea and this whole new up-and-coming crew is just incredible. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a young up-and-coming big wave rider right now, because to really make an impression, you've got to do some pretty crazy stuff. So I'm glad there's inflation vest and what have you, because that's going to help keep it safer and hopefully make everybody come in one piece. That's what it's all about. Hey, Gary?
Well, back to Tom, the thing that the bond comes from before jet skis, before inflation vests, and before leashes and stuff. And your friends that were out with you, that's how you were going to get home if something happened. And we'd watch a big set and see if the guy came up. And if he didn't come up, you didn't worry about catching the next wave. You paddled straight over and trying to help him out if you needed it. And that just carried on. But I want to say something about the young kids, and that was part of my original dream of creating the Big Wave World Tour, because it wasn't a sport. And if you don't have a champion, you don't have a sport. And so there's no career path. So, you know, I started riding big waves. The first big wave at YMCA was 33, so it's kind of late. But big wave surfing was all about older guys who, you know, had a little bit of money and could take a day off when the swell came and had a big wave board and, you know, could actually go try and surf big waves, and the kids didn't have any of that to, you know, really make anything. So it's kind of a, you know, a gentleman's sport or an older guy sport or something you did after you know, finished surfing on the tour or whatever. And I thought, well, if we don't have a champion, we don't have a sport, we're never going to see what true athletes at the peak of their career are going to be able to do on big waves. And, you know, Greg Long and Chris and those guys, what they started doing, that is what my dream was. And that's going now. So little kids right now are going to go, dude, I am going to be a big wave surfer like Chris Bertish. You know, I'm going to be like Greg Long when I grow up. And those kids, you see John Florence, those kids, they're doing incredible things and things that we couldn't dream of that you did when my generation. And now it's going to go to a whole different level. And it just makes, you know, life so special. And having Chris be part of that journey with me, with South Africa, actually, you know, for 10 years we did Red Bull Big Wave Africa together, and it was just for 3 weeks out of the year. It was a training ground, figuring out, you know, the interference rule, figuring out doubling the score, what can happen, what's gonna, how did the whole tour work out, and yeah. So I almost wore my South African shirt today, but you know, if you guys ever want to do something just outside the box and go to the most beautiful place in the whole world, go to Cape Town, go visit one of the Bertish brothers. They'll show you the best time of their life.
Not all at the same time, because my house isn't big enough to fit you guys all in.
No, not to your house. I'm not inviting them there, but just go to Cape Town. There's plenty of nice hotels.
On second thought, all of you guys go, because that's what he did to me during the 2010. He showed up with 5 of his friends from South Africa to go and pretty much kidnapped me from work down to Mexico to surf Totos, and it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. It was awesome.
We did kidnap him. The only thing we didn't use was handcuffs, but pretty much everything else. But yeah, you know, I think, and that's what surfing is about, I think, in a lot of ways, and that's what big wave surfing even more so is about. It's about the bond of friends, and it's the common thread that's kept so many friendships together through the years, you know, and I think that's what makes surfing as a sport really unique and special. You know, it links us all, the ocean and the elements and the friendship and sharing waves together creates a bond and a unique friendship that transcends time and keeps people and brings people together. And I think in big wave surfing is even more unique in that respect, because it links you together not only by that bond, but by the bond of fear and going through life-threatening experiences where you have this little tight-knit group of people that travel all around the world and pop up at the same places all together, sharing this experience and these life-threatening experiences together, and that creates a bond that's thicker than blood and thicker than water. It's that's the bond of big wave surfing and the brotherhood of big wave surfing, what it's all about. And you know, when someone goes down and he doesn't come up, you wouldn't even blink to go straight back into the zone to go and fish him out, even if it's gonna, you know, put your life on the line. You wouldn't even think twice. And I don't know any other sport on the planet that's what you'd do, to be able to risk your life for your friend without even blinking an eye. And I think that passion and that love for each other and the sport of riding big waves together is something that's very difficult to put into words, but I think that sums it up pretty nicely. Thanks very much.
I have a question right over here. She said, are you going to be surfing in the next few days? And where would that be and what time?
I've got to ask Tom if maybe I can borrow a board and a wetsuit.
Got a garage full of them.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to connect up with Tom and them in the next couple of days. I'm here for a couple of meetings, and then we've got I think a screening down in LA for the Wilton on the 24th. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to catch up with Tom over the next couple of days, track him down, and I'm sure you'll find out where I'll be I'll be hanging around. I hope that helps. Not very specific.
We'll try to make it somewhere accessible.
Sorry, I only just got in like 15 minutes ago.
One at a time. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's go with this. The progression of the equipment and how it's changed.
I'd like to take that as a three-part, if that's possible. I'd like to start off with Gary answering the first part of that, just because this is one of the greatest surfboard and big wave shapers around. So I think he's even better to answer the question than I.
Yeah, well, it's changed quite a bit, and it continues to evolve just like shortboards. And we go from making them thicker and wider and longer so we can catch waves easier to taking the excess out so that we can maneuver with them. But I think probably the biggest change over the last few years has been the acceptance of forefin in big waves. And it seems that they go a little faster, turn a little bit easier, and that combined with the lower rocker and just a lot of volume in the center has facilitated catching some big waves. So we keep catching bigger waves. And I used to think I was a big wave surfer. I think now I'm a medium-sized surfer. Watching what happens up there. But the boards evolve, and it evolves by people that go out and surf them and then go shape boards, or people that shape boards and have really good attention and listen to the surfers that they work with. So probably the latter is probably better, the guys that listen and let the other guys surf and shape well. And I tend to make things that are for myself, and that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It works for me, it might not work for somebody else. So
thanks, Gary. I think Tom, you want to add in on your side before I start?
Some of the best guns I've had have been shaped by Gary, so I really have a tremendous respect. And they're always up-to-date shapes, like the drawn-out tail lines that you get, and I've never had one of his guns not go. I've had problems with equipment before, some that have been like mass-produced or machine-shaped. I've tried everything, because you never know there's no silver bullet.
And generally in Big Surf, you don't have problems with the equipment, so.
Yeah, I try not to, but you never know. I've surfed some boards that were just slugs.
Yeah, I think what I've seen over the last sort of 2 decades has definitely been an interesting shift. The boards were really, really long, leading up into sort of 2000, the beginning of the next century here, and I ended up coming over from South Africa. I was riding really, really little boards when I came over. I was riding an 8.8 and an 8.10, which was 3 inches thick, 19 and a half wide, which is like a little toothpick, really. And then I sort of got schooled watching everyone else riding these massive boards. Where, everyone at that stage was riding like 10.0s, 10.5s, even up to 11 footers. In early 2000, and I was riding an 8.8 and an 8.10, which was quite an interesting. It was quite an interesting combination, But I think what made it fascinating for me was that I was so fit at that time and so confident about myself and my physical ability, and I believe that physical fitness breeds mental confidence. So, thanks. I'm not as physically fit and mentally confident right now, though, after coming off a 40-hour flight. But I do believe that, and I think even when I watch the footage of me surfing Todos now, I can see that I was just you're just oozing that sort of confidence where you're so confident about being out in big surf, and no matter what happens, you can take it and handle it because you've done all the preparation and the training for it. But it's interesting to see how over that next sort of 10 years, how the equipment has all shifted, and now a lot more. The boards have got a lot more volume, so they've gone from 3 inches to 3.5 to 4 inches, and even 4.25. And all, as Gary was saying, a lot of the volume's moved up forward, so it's underneath your chest. So when you're paddling in, that's where all the volume and width is, underneath your chest, to be able to help you get over the ledge and get into the waves a lot earlier. So what happens is that the the waves that we're riding now seem to have got bigger and bigger and bigger. And even though the boards aren't that much longer, they've just managed to compact the foam and distribute the foam very cleverly so that there's more volume, which means that, you know, foam is your friend. So the more you have, easier to catch waves, faster you can paddle, you know, and quicker you're going to be able to get into a big wave, which I find fascinating because you can take a board that's, you know, 9.6 that they're shaped now, which would have the same volume that a board 10 years ago would, which would be 10.2. So, you know, you manage to put almost a half a foot even longer into a board, but making it smaller, which has been, I think, half the reason why there's been such an evolution, because the guys have been able to ride boards that are, you know, in the 9.6 to 10 foot range that actually have as much volume as the boards used to have 10.5, which means that you could maneuver them and handle the board, because the ability to be able to catch a wave is one thing, but on a really big wave, you've got to be able to control the board once you got it under your feet. And that's always been the key, and that's the reason why I used to ride such short boards, because I felt that I could control it. So even if I took off super late on a really big wave, I could handle the drop and handle the board even if it was super late, because the board was so much smaller. I mean, I think the biggest waves I've ever ridden in my entire life have been on a 8.8 and a 9.2. So it can be done. It's obviously not ideal taking off under the lip on a 60-foot wave. But, you know, I think every big wave's got a little magic a little magic takeoff spot. And if you can find that little magic button, then it's not about the size of your board. I think it's the size of your balls. And the commitment to yourself, and having the belief that you can actually, you've got the belief and the courage and the confidence within yourself, and the background and the training and the preparation, which gives you the confidence and the belief in yourself to know that you can actually pull it off. And I think that's 80% of it is having the belief and the confidence in yourself, which comes from all the training, all the preparation, all the experience and the knowledge from all your past experiences, which gives you the wisdom to know that which ways you can take and which ways you can make.
Well, you certainly made all the wrong choices at some point, and I'm sitting up here laughing because when I first met this guy, we were surfing Dungeons, and Dungeons is just a wild beast of a wave. I mean, there's some beautiful sections to it, but there's like 3 different peaks, and he'd go out and sit out the farthest peak, that one that you'd have no chance of cutting across to the second one or the middle one where everybody else would sit. And he'd pull into these barrels, and you see him on this film all the time, just pulling in, close out, pulling in, close out, pulling in, close out, come up laughing, come up laughing. So he certainly knows how not to do it.
You got to work the numbers, Gary. You got to work the numbers. It's like going to the casino, and if you pull that 8 ball enough times, eventually you're going to hit the jackpot.
You made me laugh so much. But I have to tell my one story, and it's just, I don't know, maybe it's only funny to me, but when we came in, we were having the celebration party one time, and it's freezing in Cape Town. For Southern California boy, I mean, I'm in a 5'4" at Todos, and we come in, and everybody's had a few drinks, we had dinner, and we're at the wharf, and somehow, some way, Chris ends up in the water. You know, got thrown in with the seals, and he's swimming in there, and I just, it makes me laugh. Every time I see you, I think of that moment. You were having so much fun, this freezing water, and you got this big grin on your face, man, and that, it never goes away.
Well, I think, Gary, you know, that sort of sums it up. I think, you know, it's that passion and the love for the sport, you know, and it's an incredible sport, and you come out from surfing, you know, a session with all these like-minded people and sharing these waves and sharing these magic, like, frightening experiences, and you come in and you're so high on adrenaline and that passion and love for riding big waves and surviving it that you just I think that's what big wave surfing is about. You know, I've got to do a talk at the Mindful Conference in New York, and I've been thinking about it a lot and how I can incorporate what I do and what we've been doing for the last 10 years. And I think that's pretty much what hits the nail on the head, is that mindfulness is about being focused and being in the present. And I think that's what surfing does, and even more so big wave surfing. It puts you 100% in the moment, in the present. So you are experiencing life to the rawest, most pure, primal form, and you are experiencing everything at such a high, intense level that every single one of your senses is buzzing and like on an all-time high, and every single one of your senses is doing that all at the same time, and you are like basically as high as you can possibly be on life and on being connected with nature. And that's what makes this sport so incredibly pure, raw, primal, and incredible. And I think that's what big wave surfing is about. And you know, I think as people, and I think even more so in life at the moment, we live so much in the future and experience and make our decisions so much from the past. And it's so difficult to be able to bring yourself into the present and actually appreciate being in the present without the clutter and the periphery noise. And I think that's what surfing does. It connects you back to nature, and that's why when you go surfing, you know, all your worries get washed away. And big wave surfing just does that to a whole nother level, and that's what makes it so special. Sorry. Yeah. I think that's a really great question, and I think every single one of these guys here are as qualified as I am to be able to answer that question. So I'd love to be able to pass it on to you guys. Do you want to answer it one by one? Everybody's got their own way, so it's interesting hearing different perspectives.
You're probably really familiar about my situation. I lost my dad in 2009. Totally crushed me. Mentally, I was just working. I was a robot. I was going through the movements of life, not really thinking about much. And that's when Chris showed up out of the blue. I haven't seen him in 10 years. And just showed up at the right time and had the right thing to say. And just everything, it's just like all the stars aligned again, and I was back on track again. But it took me months, almost a whole year before I was 100% again, but it actually got me motivated to, spend more time in the water, get reconnected and everything. And it was just that moment. It really took him coming back, somebody who had made an impression before, to get me out of that funk, because I guess you would really call it, depression, but I'm much better now.
That's what big wave surfing will do. That's what the ocean will do.
Well, my worst thing that happened to me is in the 80s, I started making surfboards in the 70s. In the 80s, I got really famous, and, I didn't really
Still
think
famous,
about it.
Gary.
Well, yeah, it was for my
Living
boards and
legend
stuff,
here. What do you mean?
for my surfboards and stuff, and I made a bunch of bad business decisions and things, I lost all my money, and everything fell apart, and that felt like a terrible failure and everything, and so I went, ooh, in a big rocket ship kind of thing, and I was really, really bummed out, and my dad came up to me one day, and he goes, well, what are you so upset for? You've done more than I ever did in life. You took our name all the way around the world. And I thought about it, and I think about that all the time, and it's if you feel like a failure and you feel like you're not a success, you don't. Sometimes it's because you're using everybody's gauge to judge what you set out to do. And I realized at that moment I'd never really made my goal was not to make money. My goal was to surf and make good boards and ride big waves and stuff like that, and I was still doing that, so I was still a success, and I wasn't a failure.
Amen.
Right on, Gary. And I think everybody's definition of success is different. It's all relative to what's important in your life, some people, exactly. Get caught. But it's different. It's different than anybody. And Gary's done some amazing stuff, and he's created. He's created not just surfboards and the magic that we share and that common bond that connects a lot of people, because that's what he's doing all around the world with the boards that he creates. But he's actually He's created a sport and a profession that never existed before. And that's incredible. Like, it doesn't matter what else you did in your life. For someone to be able to leave this world, whether that be 10, 20, 30 years down the line, and say that they created a sport which they were passionate about, and they created a profession so that people could grow up aspiring and dreaming to be that, and then go out and get paid to do that for the rest of their life. That's incredible. And I'd like everybody to give them a round of applause, because that's pretty special in itself.
Let's take.
I don't know if we really got to answer the question. Wait. Let me get to that.
Let's take two more and then adjourn to the party. How about that?
Just hold on a second. Let me help with that last one. So we're talking about, I think, what's the worst big wipeout that I've had? Was that what? Yeah. Sorry, I'm better standing up. Well, I think that's the same as in life, really. You know, when you get back down, you know, when you fall down, it's not how, you know, it's not how you get up. It's how many times you have to get up to keep on going, keep on carrying on. And there's no such thing as failure, I believe, in life. Only a failure to try. So when you fall, get up. When you lose, don't lose the lesson. You know. And there's a lesson that you can take from every experience. So, you know, see the good and the bad. So when something bad happens, like you had that fall or whatever, then I always look at every experience that I have, no matter how bad it is, and look at it and say, okay, well, what can I take from that? What can I gain from that? And how can I apply that to my life to be able to improve it, so when I get into that same situation again, I can only make it better? And I believe that, you know, getting caught inside or having a really bad wipeout, it's like getting caught inside by that big set at Mavericks in the 2010 event. It was absolutely petrifying, and I believe we all get caught inside by those curveballs and by those big sets in life, those rogue waves. And it's about how you deal with it. If you run away from your fears, they'll hunt you down, they'll track you down, and they'll get you. So turn around and face them. The quicker you face them, the quicker you get through them, and you don't worry about them. And if you can just learn to be able to know within yourself that you've got the confidence and the courage to be able to deal with it, and just relax and go with the flow, you'll actually get through it quicker than you think. It's when you panic and you try and run away from your fears, that's when they actually grab you and take you down and never let you go. So you can apply that to anything in life, and you know, I actually try and apply those kind of principles to getting caught inside by a big wave or in life. You know, you got to be prepared. You've got to done the hard work and the training. And when you get caught inside by those curveballs and those big sets, you just got to relax and go with it and know that there's a famous saying that says, "This too shall pass." It might seem like a really hectic situation at the time, but it's only going to be a short space of time, and it'll pass, and you'll get through it. And that's the way I get through a lot of stuff in life. I hope that helps. That was a really weird way of answering a question, but I hope that helped. Sorry, there's one last question in the corner there. I love that question. I like him already. I think three things. If you go in humble, respectful, and with a smile on your face, you can never go wrong. Yeah. Okay? Is that right?
That's it.
And I think if you can take that approach into wherever you go in life, I think you'll be come out with a positive outcome. What do you reckon, Gary?
I think we both smiled our way out of a few situations, right?
You know, if you actually read my book, I actually launched a book at the end of last year in South Africa called Stoked. It's online, and I haven't actually launched it in America yet, but it's done remarkably well. There's a story about that situation that I suggested, which was being humble, respectful, and with a smile. And I tried that in Hawaii at Backdoor, and it was very unsuccessful. So it doesn't always work. Pretty much I got beaten up. I got told to leave the island. I almost shaved my head because I got told to leave. And when you get told to leave in Hawaii, there's a good reason. But the moral of that story was that I got, singled out by the hui, that they didn't want me there and they wanted me to leave. And I refused to go, which obviously also caused some problems. But I went and surfed a whole lot of other ways, the ways that weren't in that zone for a while to try and stay out of the, out of their way. And about 2 weeks later, even after getting told to leave, which you normally do, otherwise you end up either getting beaten up really badly or in a box, they had this really big swell at YMCA, and I ended up going out and surfing it. And I remember taking off on one of the biggest sets of the day and dropping down, and about 3 or 4 other people dropping in with me, and all of them got cleaned and totally annihilated on this wave. And I ended up making it out of the white water and making it into the channel. And as I pulled out into the channel, I paddled right, like as I came off the wave, the 2 guys that I'd actually got into trouble with, who were part of the hui, were paddling out. And they saw me get that wave, and no words were exchanged. The guy nodded at me, and he shook his head, and instantly there was instant respect, and I never got bothered ever again. And I think that's what big wave surfing is about. You earn your stripes, and you earn your respect. Yep.
We are getting a little late, so I think we should we'll stop this for the moment and continue.
Molly, one more. Come on. I know there's one more. Come on. I traveled all this way.
One more. Okay, I'm giving you that because you did travel a long way.
Can we get 2 questions? I'd like one question in the audience for Nadia in regarding to the film and how the film was made, and anything that you guys want to ask her, because she's done such an amazing job.
Good idea. Yes. So, question for Nadia, right there.
I'm not going to let Nadia answer that one. Actually, Nadia's watched the film so many times and interviewed me so many times. She can actually probably answer the question. So, Nadia, you answer that question.
Well, I got to tell you that Todos break was like the absolute cream of the crop. And if I could redo it.
There you go. She's probably spot on. Todos Santos, probably all 3 of us here, it's probably our favorite wave, yeah? What do you think?
It's my favorite place in the world.
Favorite place in the world. It's like this little dream wonderland in the middle of nowhere. And it's like you're being beamed. Like, when I arrived, Todos Santos. I have to stand up for this one. I come from a place which is raw and wild and dangerous. They're like animals that walk around in the street. And it's wild out there. It's like a jungle.
Seriously,
And
baboons will
really.
walk and chase you to your car.
And it's, and then you go to Mavericks, and it's like this dark, evil, ominous place. It's freezing cold. There's rocks and great white sharks, and this wave, like it seems like it's sent from the devil to try and devour you. And then you drive down through the border, and you go out on this little fishing boat to 40 kilometers out through 50-foot seas to this tiny little island, and you come around the corner, and it's like this mythical wonderland. Like someone's actually, you've died and you've gone to big wave heaven, and it's just this perfect, crystal clean, glassy, perfect, big, massive waves just breaking perfectly A-frames into this channel in this beautiful surroundings with this tiny little island with a lighthouse on it, and it's magical. You think of all those amazing places in the animations where Walt Disney creates these magical places. That's what Todos Santos is. And even if you don't surf, you should go there because it'll beam you back into a place that you never thought existed and was possible. So I get to surf in my own Disney World animation every time I go down to surf Todos Santos, and that's what makes it so special. And then on top of that, you get the most incredible people and friends to be able to share your passion with. I mean, wow. You know, who needs to go to heaven? I go to heaven every time I go to Todos Santos. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
All right. Do we have one question for Nadia? Is anyone interested in anything specifically about how she made that great movie? There we go.
It took us about 6 months to sit and review the footage. We had to transfer it too from 8mm. It was incredibly crazy. And so 6 months, and then, just working through the storyline with Chris, what he wanted to see, and we extracted those memories that he had out of the footage, and on top of those memories, the footage that caught our eyes and helped us tell the story. And we just kind of created this library of footage, which we were trying to go at a breakneck pace. We were trying to do it in 6 months, which was crazy. But we managed to create a library of, top picks, and that took about a year. And then we created this rough, outline with Chris following the storyline that had so many branches that, yeah, you'll have to watch the bonus tracks. Yeah. Yeah, you can identify it. My editor at the time, Fran, and later Fixer Film worked with us too, and they kept a lot of those gems in. It was like this common denominator that would reappear throughout, like those gems that when the light hit just right and expressions were just right and these unusual places and energies, they just spoke to us. And I was working with Francis Battaglia. He was one of the founders of Surfline, and so he could identify waves with me too. We could see, okay, that's the perfect wave to put there. And most of those waves stayed in. We added a lot more, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I've known the journey for so long, so I knew where a lot of the footage was and where sort of a lot of key footage was. So it was those aspects were quite easy to highlight. But I think what makes this film in a lot of ways quite unique is we were dealing with, so many different formats across that spanned over, 6 decades, which is pretty incredible. I had my dad's film footage, which we got out of the archives, which was still in reels, which was 8mm, then it was 16mm, then it was DV cam, then it was beta cam, VHS, beta, DV, SD, HD, red cam. We had to take it all and put it together, and that's why it was so difficult. And a lot of that footage from really far back, like my dad's stuff when he was water skiing and paddling down rivers and stuff, was borderline being able to use it. When I took it to get the stuff transcoded, I battled for like 3 months to find somewhere where I could actually even get it out of the reel box and onto the main cine reels that would actually show it, and then be able to take it over into digital format. So I think that was one of the greatest difficulties, but I think that's in a way what's made this film so unique and special, because there's almost nothing in it that's been redone. It's all real, raw, authentic footage right from the 60s right through till 2014, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and we were kind of, going at it with passion and a little naive, and everyone was like, good luck. Like, what are you going to do that on Premiere or Final Cut? Like, no one knew. It was such a combination. It was crazy.
Yeah, and I think you can take a lot from making this film as well. I've been dreaming of doing this for a long time, and I got told by so many people that it was impossible. I didn't have any experience in film. I've never been in film school. It's the same with the book. I got told that I've never been a writer. I've never been an author. I got turned down by 3 different publishers. I got told by one of the main authors that I didn't have a story. But I think it's like a lot of things in life. If you have a goal and you have a dream, it doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter if someone says you can't do it, it's impossible. Maybe it's impossible for them, maybe they can't do it. But if you believe in something and you really have a passion and a drive and a commitment to it, the most important key is to persevere and never ever give up on it. And eventually you'll get there. It's only when you give up and you stop trying that you won't achieve your goal. So if you continue to take daily steps and actions towards making that dream come true and that goal happen, you'll always get there if you never stop trying. And that's the lesson that I've learned, the greatest lesson I've learned across everything that I've done in life. If you never give up and you stay persistent, focused, determined, and persevere, you'll always achieve any goal and dream you want in your life. So I hope you get that from this film, because that's everything that I want anybody out here in the audience to take from this, is that if you have a dream and a goal and you never give up on it and you believe in it, then there's no such thing as impossible unless you believe it to be. Thanks very much.
Well done. Thank you. I want to thank you guys so much. Nadia, Tom, Gary, Chris, thank you so much. The party will continue, and they're going to be here to talk to. The party is right behind us in the tent.